So does anybody want to see a video on Kurt Angle? Okay then. The future Olympic gold medalist got his start in wrestling at the age of 7. As he continued to compete, it was easy to tell Angle had a gift for the sport. He became the Pennsylvania State Wrestling Champion during his senior year of high school, and was also a 2-time NCAA Division I champion in college. However, his biggest accomplishment in amateur wrestling came at the 1996 Olympic Games, where he won a gold medal. With a broken frickin' neck! Didn't think I was gonna say it, did ya? Okay, so after becoming an accomplished amateur wrestler, Kurt would go pro. His first major stint in professional wrestling came a few months after his victory at the Olympics, when he appeared at an ECW event. He didn't compete, but provided an interview and guest commentary. His involvement in ECW ended up going under the radar, as at that same event, the infamous Sandman crucifixion incident happened. Angle didn't want to be associated with it, and even threatened to sue the company if he was shown on TV. The same year this chaos was going on in ECW, Kurt Angle had also received an offer from WWE. The contract WWE presented him was for 10 years, and Angle may have taken it, but one of his conditions was that he could never lose. Of course, WWE wasn't okay with that, and things fell through. Fast forward to 1998, and Kurt Angle found new inspiration for pro wrestling, especially when he saw Stone Cold Steve Austin. He tried out with WWE and was signed to a 5-year contract. He picked things up extremely fast, and quickly started performing in WWE's development promotions, as well as a few outside organizations. Finally, in March of 1999, Kurt Angle would make his first appearance on WWE TV. During a segment on Sunday Night Heat, Tiger Ali Singh tried to bribe Angle to blow his nose on the American flag. Kurt immediately took the money and blew all over the flag. Of course, that's not what happened. He instead blew over the Indian flag and threw Singh down onto the mat. Angle wouldn't appear on TV for a while following this, and mainly performed in untelevised matches. Finally though, at the 1999 Survivor Series, Kurt Angle had his first match in WWE. The first man to enter the ring was Angle's opponent, Shawn Stasiak. After an introduction from Howard Finkel, Kurt Angle came out to his iconic entrance music, minus the "You Suck" chants. Even with his appearance earlier in the year, and all the promos hyping up his in-ring debut, Kurt Angle didn't receive much of a reaction from the crowd. Once the match started, Angle demonstrated his amateur background right away by taking Stasiak off his feet with a fireman's carry. Angle got Stasiak to stay down by hitting him with a waistlock takedown and successfully executing a front facelock. Shawn Stasiak would try to counter out of it, but Kurt would find a new hold to use. Angle found himself in danger when Stasiak caught Kurt's leg and took control with an armbar. Once both wrestlers got to their feet, Kurt threw Shawn into the ropes, but received a shoulder for his troubles. The match was briefly in the Olympic gold medalist's control when he flipped Stasiak over with a hip toss and connected with a body slam and a belly-to-belly suplex. Shawn Stasiak still had some fight in him, and that allowed him to land a few punches and a clothesline. The 15-time hardcore champion then got Kurt Angle into the corner and continued his assault. The beatdown developed further as Stasiak tried to put Angle away with a sidewalk slam, a suplex, and an elbow, but neither of them got the job done. Finally, Angle made his comeback by breaking out of a headlock and knocking his opponent down with a clothesline. The Pennsylvania native then got out of the ring and played up his heel character by telling the crowd they weren't allowed to boo him. It wasn't a smart decision, since it gave Shawn Stasiak the opportunity to strike. The momentum picked up once again for Kurt after attempting a roll-up and following up with a couple of punches and a power slam. Shawn still managed to keep the match alive by tossing Angle off his shoulders. Stasiak realized the only way to win the match would be to go high risk, so he headed for the ropes. It didn't pay off as Kurt Angle dodged Stasiak's move and used the opening to successfully perform the Angle Slam and obtain the victory. I was surprised at how much offense Stasiak got in this match. Although, Kurt was an egotistical heel, so it probably wouldn't have made a ton of sense for him just to beat Shawn Stasiak super easily. Regardless, this is just the beginning of a legendary career. Kurt Angle remained undefeated until the Royal Rumble, when he lost to a debuting Taz. Even with this defeat, he would soon win the European and Intercontinental titles, but lost them at WrestleMania 2000. Kurt's career still remained strong, as he competed in and won the King of the Ring. After that, Angle began a love triangle storyline with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. Stephanie ultimately stood by her husband, when she caused Kurt Angle to lose his match against the Game at Unforgiven. Angle's biggest moment that year was still to come, when he had faced the WWE Champion The Rock in October, and would win his first world title. The American hero held on to the championship for the rest of the year, and even well into 2001. It was finally at No Way Out that he would lose the title back to The Rock. He then went into WrestleMania 17 with a match against Chris Benoit. Angle won that encounter, and the two continued to feud with one another, trading victories and losses in the process. During this time, the Invasion storyline began, which saw WCW and ECW wrestlers trying to take over the WWE. Kurt Angle stayed on the WWE's side and teamed up with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Austin ended up turning on Angle and siding with the opposing faction. This ultimately led to a match against the two at Unforgiven, where Kurt Angle won his second WWE Championship. This title run was way shorter than Kurt's first, because he would lose the title back to Stone Cold about 2 weeks later. Once the Invasion storyline wrapped up, Angle would compete in his first ever Royal Rumble in 2002, and was the last participant to be eliminated. He walked into WrestleMania 18 with a match against Kane, and ultimately won it. Shortly afterwards, the original brand split began, and Kurt was drafted to SmackDown. His first feud as a part of the brand was against Edge. Their rivalry included a hair vs. hair match, which, as you probably already know, Angle lost. At this point, the Ruthless aggression era had just begun, and Kurt Angle would start rubbing shoulders with the new talent. The highlights include beating John Cena in Cena's debut match, and defeating Rey Mysterio at SummerSlam. Later in the year, Angle would reunite his feud with Chris Benoit. A new wrinkle was added into their story when they teamed up and became the first WWE Tag Team Champions. Of course, they would continue to argue amongst themselves, and their title run came to an end at Survivor Series. The year still concluded on a strong note for Angle, as he defeated the Big Show at Armageddon and became a 3-time WWE Champion. This led to his classic match against Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania 19, which ended his championship run. Not long after, and Kurt Angle would be out of action for neck surgery. He returned just a couple of months later, and would go on to beat Brock Lesnar and Big Show in a match at Vengeance to become WWE Champion once again. While he would be successful in a title defense at SummerSlam, Lesnar still managed to regain the championship when he beat Kurt in an Iron Man match on SmackDown. Their rivalry came to a conclusion at Survivor Series when Team Angle defeated Team Lesnar in a 5-on-5 match. The next storyline Kurt Angle had was with Eddie Guerrero. Things started with Angle being a friend to Guerrero, but on the SmackDown after Eddie won the WWE Championship, Kurt would attack him. This set up their WrestleMania 20 match, which saw Angle lose the contest. Like last year, the Olympic hero needed to undergo neck surgery following the performance. While he was recovering, Kurt Angle became the general manager of SmackDown and continued to feud with Eddie Guerrero. Kurt would end up costing Eddie the WWE Championship when he interfered during a cage match while trying to conceal his identity under a mask. This set up a rematch at SummerSlam, where the future Hall of Famer made up for his WrestleMania loss by forcing Eddie to tap out. A little while after this, Angle would have his infamous moment involving the Tough Enough competitors. To summarize the incident, Kurt challenged the participants to a real amateur wrestling match. One of the individuals, Daniel Puder, who had a background in MMA, took Angle down and nearly broke his arm. It ended up fine, but it's crazy to think what would have happened to Kurt's career if he tapped out or had his arm broken. Moving forward, at the 2005 Royal Rumble, Kurt Angle was eliminated by Shawn Michaels in under a minute. In retaliation, the American hero got back into the ring and threw Michaels over the top rope. After months of taunting the Heartbreak Kid, Angle and Michaels squared off at WrestleMania in a critically acclaimed match, which the American hero won. Things got kind of weird after that, when Kurt Angle started a feud with Booker T. The oddest part came when Angle started sexually harassing Booker's wife, Sharmell. Thankfully, the story ended with the 5-time WCW champion as the winner. Jumping back several months, Kurt Angle began an invitational challenge in 2004, where if someone lasted at least 3 minutes in the ring with them, they would earn his gold medals. In July of 2005, after being drafted to Raw, the Olympic gold medalist issued his challenge like normal, and it was answered by Eugene. In an upset victory, Eugene lasted for 3 minutes and won Angle's medals. The rivalry continued to SummerSlam, where Angle beat Eugene and won back his Olympic gold. After that, Kurt Angle began to have a series of WWE Championship matches with John Cena that lasted throughout the year and into 2006. While Kurt Angle would technically beat Cena on a few occasions, there was never a victory that won him the Invisible Man's title. Once that was over, Kurt Angle returned to SmackDown and quickly won the World Heavyweight Championship. He would have several title defenses, including one of the best matches of the year against The Undertaker. At WrestleMania 22, he came in with the title, but like every WrestleMania Championship match Kurt Angle has ever had, he lost. Angle would then end his original WWE run on the relaunched ECW. He got the nickname the Wrestling Machine and started competing more aggressively. He would have a few bigger matches, including wrestling Randy Orton at One Night Stand and challenging Rob Van Dam in an ECW title match. Angle's last appearance during his original WWE run was on the August 8th edition of ECW, where he fought Sabu, which resulted in a no contest. After wrapping up a roughly 8-year career in WWE, Kurt Angle spent the next 10 years in TNA, or Impact Wrestling. While he was there, Angle was a huge asset to the company. He was involved in some of the organization's best matches and won the heavyweight title a total of 6 times. Kurt Angle would leave Impact Wrestling in 2016 and started performing across the country. Finally, in 2017, Angle returned to WWE to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. This wasn't all he came back for, as he'd be appointed to Raw General Manager shortly after. He also had this storyline going on where he was Jason Jordan's father. That was different. But his big moment came when over 11 years after his last WWE match, the Olympic hero got back inside the ring and competed as an honorary member of the Shield. He then renewed an old rivalry with Triple H and Stephanie McMahon. First, his job as GM was on the line at Survivor Series, where the stipulation was, if Kurt's team lost, he'd be fired. Even though Triple H would attack him during the match, Kurt's team ultimately won, and the storyline came to a head at WrestleMania 34. Alongside the debuting Ronda Rousey, Kurt took on and defeated Triple H and Stephanie. Several months later, after tension had been building up, Stephanie McMahon would send Kurt away on a vacation and gave the role of general manager to Baron Corbin. Kurt returned roughly 2 months later, on October 8, 2018, and would wrestle a number of matches, but was often the loser. Finally, in March 2019, Angle announced he was retiring at WrestleMania 35. In the weeks leading up to his retirement match, Kurt would wrestle against opponents he had handpicked. Finally, April 7, 2019 rolled around, and Kurt Angle got inside the squared circle one more time. First to get an entrance was Angle's completely not controversial final opponent, Baron Corbin. Once Corbin's introduction was over, it was the Olympic gold medalist's turn. Kurt Angle received a grand entrance with red, white, and blue pyro and fireworks. And of course, the chant every wrestling fan is required to say when they hear the American Heroes theme song. Once the pageantry was over, the match started. Kurt got things going by simply smacking Corbin with some punches, but started to get more technical when he threw the Lone Wolf down with a belly-to-belly suplex. Wanting to put an end to Kurt's momentum before it became too much, Baron Corbin raked Angle's eyes and knocked him down by throwing the wrestling machine into the ropes. The former Constable of Raw got Kurt Angle into the corner and used his fists to wear the Hall of Famer down. Corbin continued his attack with strikes and kicks, while also taking some time to taunt. When Baron went to the top rope, Kurt Angle realized he had an opening and dodged the offensive move. With his opponent stunned, the gold medal winner wrapped his arms around Corbin's waist and performed 3 German suplexes. When those didn't get the job done, Kurt Angle got ready to hit the ankle slam, but ended up eating a big boot instead. This didn't keep the Olympic hero down for long, as he countered a powerbomb attempt into an ankle lock. Knowing the submission move could be devastating, Baron Corbin quickly got out of it and hit the deep 6 for good measure. Kurt still kept the match alive and created some space between himself and Baron Corbin. Before his rival could land another hit, Kurt Angle fed him to the turnbuckle and successfully performed the ankle slam. Proving his durability, Corbin kicked out before the referee could count to 3. Kurt Angle still had one more move in his arsenal, so he lowered his straps and imprisoned Baron with the ankle lock. Angle held on to Corbin for roughly half a minute, but could not get him to tap out. The ankle lock was finally broken when Baron Corbin rolled forward and launched Kurt into the middle turnbuckle. As you'd expect, as soon as the Lone Wolf was free, he started taunting again, this time targeting John Cena. Using Corbin's lack of focus to his advantage, Kurt smacked Baron right in the face and hit another trio of German suplexes. The crowd then got off their feet and Angle took in the applause, before getting ready to perform a moonsault. Unfortunately, the attack didn't connect, as Baron Corbin moved out of the way and hit Kurt Angle with the End of Days, to put a finish to the WWE Hall of Famer's career. Once Kurt was alone in the ring, he took a moment to thank the fans and closed out the match with his music playing and the crowd shouting that iconic chant. It was probably the most fitting way to see Kurt Angle retire, but I think this sign in the crowd said what we were all truly feeling. The following night, Kurt Angle would get even with Baron Corbin by hitting him with one more ankle slam and performing one final ankle lock. Unfortunately, Kurt would still end the night on a low note. A debuting Lars Sullivan would enter the ring and attack the Olympic hero. This didn't keep Kurt down though. He appeared again in July of 2019, alongside a number of other Hall of Famers and legends, during the Raw reunion. Finally, Angle's most recent appearance was in August, when he was going to guest referee a match, but ended up getting attacked by The Fiend. Even though he's retired from in-ring competition, I'm confident that we'll see Kurt Angle in the WWE for a while. Besides appearing in wrestling rings, Kurt Angle is also in one of the Sharknado films. Watch the video in the center of the screen to see that. Keep the suggestions coming for future Bell to Bell episodes. One day I'll get to them all. Anyways, I'm Zach from Tap Out Corner, and take care.